reading continues. If any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believes in me, it would be better for you if a great millstone were hung around your neck, and you were thrown into the sea. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than to have two hands and go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and to be thrown into hell. And if your eye causes you to stumble, tear it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where their worm never dies and the fire is never quenched. For everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good, but if salt has lost its saltiness, how can you season it? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. I guess it's been a few weeks ago. It was the first part of the month. Dawn and I stopped in Oakland, Maryland at one of her favorite antique shops. And then the owner there was lamenting the depressed market for antiques. You see, the market is flooded and prices are low right now. And he attributes the major reason for this to our children, who no longer want the family heirlooms. Thus they flood the market, driving prices down. Donna's precious heirlooms, they are precious to her. Many of them, if not most of them, were her grandmother's. Those precious heirlooms mean little to nothing to our boys. And this sometimes distresses Donna greatly. This summer on Move Day, when Donna and I moved from the parsonage over to our house on Sandy Avenue, the movers were trying to get our mid-sized chest freezer into the basement through the outside door. No way we were going to get it down the steps. Now I knew the door was tight, but our washer and our new dryer came through the door with no problem. A large refrigerator that the previous family had left in the basement came out. All we had to do was take the door off the hinges, out it came. But I thought there might be a problem, and so prior to leaving the parsonage, I had taken the lid off of it, taken the lid hinges off of it, and taped the cord up and had it ready. We got it to the parsonage, or from the parsonage over to the house. I took the door off, I took the trim off, and still they had to wiggle and squeeze and push and shove to get that chest freezer parts into the basement. And after some effort and a lot of struggling, the foreman turned and looked at me and said, "You need a wire door." He said, "I dig a new stairwell out, elbow off this way." And I'm thinking, yeah. He put a 36-inch door in it, he said. And I'm thinking, new walls, new drain, new step, maybe $7,000 or $8,000 would cover it, And so I looked at him and I said, "I got it in. Let the kids get it out." I got it in. Let the kids get it out. Dawn and I have been downsizing. Not so much for the kids' sake, but because our smaller retirement home will never contain all the stuff that we had to fill the parsonage with its gazillions of cubic feet of storage space. I learned something this past week, that there is such a thing as something called death cleaning. It means that you remove the unnecessary things to make your house nice and orderly, especially if you think the end is near. And even with our downsizing, I don't know what the kids are going to do with all of our stuff. My suggestion to them would be to hire Bean's auction service to come in and just hold a big auction. Okay? In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus challenges us to do a kind of death cleaning, removing from our lives sinful actions and attitudes that cause us to stumble and could lead to death. In the town of Capernaum, John, one of the disciples, says to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he's not following us." Heaven's sakes. And John is concerned that this unknown exorcist is not properly trained or authorized to use the name of Jesus in his healing work. And Jesus says to him, "Do not stop him. For no one who does a deed of power in my name will be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. Whoever is not against us is for us," Jesus says. Oh, delete your concern for purity, Jesus says. Because whoever is not against us is for us. Get rid of it. Whoever is not against the way of Jesus is for the way of Jesus. We need this kind of death cleaning today at a time when so many people are obsessed with purity in religion and politics. Whoever is not against us is for us. Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State under George W. Bush's administration, has hosted a documentary that I've seen called American Creed, C-R-E-E-D, Creed, which explores the divisions that exist in our country today. We are purists about so many things today, whether it's gay rights or gun rights. Unfortunately, we are attacking each other in a variety of ways. You don't think so? Turn on the television. Switch it to the 24-hour news cycle. And just see what we're doing to one another. Or go on Facebook and see all the comments. We're in bad need. She goes on to say, we all have to start listening to each other. And right now we're shouting at each other instead. Right now we are saying my grievance, my narrative is superior to yours. I've suffered more. I've been discriminated against more. But fortunately, Rice has found a few Americans who are taking an opposite tack and are putting aside purity in order to unify their communities. Jesus would approve of this because he was always looking for ways to unite instead of divide. He says, whoever is not against us is for us. And then the call to death cleaning continues when Jesus says, if your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It's better to enter life maimed than to have two hands and to go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It's better to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. And in these verses, that phrase, causes you to stumble, can also mean in English, scandalize. Jesus is saying that if your hands or your feet scandalize you, causing you to sin or trip or fall away, stop using your hands and your feet that way. So what kind of scandalizing might this include? Most of us use our hands to do at least part of our jobs, don't we? You may not be a manual laborer, but I'll bet you write on the board. I'll bet you use your computer. Some of you maybe work in the construction trades or the coal industry or one of the plants here along the river. But there are some kinds of work that are more harmful than helpful. Maybe we put a burden on the poor, harm the environment, scandalize our families, and destroy our well-being. If so, Jesus says to delete it. Get rid of it and replace it with work that's healthier and more productive. Most of us use our feet to take us to a variety of places. Sometimes places we shouldn't go. Alcoholics are scandalized by bars. Gambling addicts by casinos. And married people can be scandalized by places and situations that tempt them to be unfaithful. Delete them. And Jesus goes on to talk about a form of death cleaning when he says, and if your eye causes you to stumble, tear it out. Better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye than have two eyes and be thrown into hell, where their word never dies and the fire is never quenched. We live in a visual culture today. Let's face it. It's all around us. There's tantalizing images. Temptation appears on computer screens and smartphones and television and in the pages of glossy magazines. Perhaps our eyes are drawn to designer jeans, luxury cars, social media postings, pornography. If these images scandalize you, throw them out. Get rid of them. Don't let these things cause you to stumble. And in all these ways, Jesus wants us to do the hard work of death cleaning. He's not really asking us to destroy our hands or our feet or our eyes. I have friends who are very fundamental, and they say, I read it like it says. And it says what it means. And I ask them, well, why are you walking around with 2 feet, 2 hands, and 2 eyes? Doesn't it tell you if you sin, cut your hand off or your foot off or pluck your eye out? Are you without sin? Jesus didn't mean it that way. He says for us to get rid of the destructive things that we do with our hands and our feet and our eyes, to cut off certain kinds of behavior and not body parts. And this death cleaning is important because otherwise we hang on to sinful attitudes and actions that scandalize us and cause us to stumble. And Jesus knows that these changes aren't easy. They aren't. In fact, he says that everyone will be salted with fire. Now that sounds like a pretty painful experience to me. I remember when there was a time when some of the old country farmers would put rock salt in their shotguns. You know? Some of us who grew up in the country heard of that. Get salted like that, it's a painful experience. But know this, that in the ancient world, both salt and fire were used as preservatives for food. And they were essential for keeping people alive and healthy. So to be salted with fire is to be preserved as a faithful disciple. And which leads Jesus to say to his followers, have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. in a world of abundant distractions and temptations. We need to do this kind of cleaning that Jesus recommends. Because, folks, you see, it keeps us alive, at peace with one another, and in touch with God who loves us and saves us from every kind of trouble. Dawn and I have gotten rid of a lot of stuff. And we were coming home from our friend Richard Carroll's yesterday evening. And she said something similar to me. We were talking. She said, I've cleaned till I'm tearful. I've cleaned till I'm tearful. Gotten rid of a lot of stuff. And we're going to say, let the kids worry about the rest of it. That's just the way it'll be.